Hello, welcome back. In the previous video, we took a look at the basics of using XChem, how to create very primitive and elementary schematics, and how to use PDK devices for very elementary SPICE simulations. And in this video, I'm going to go over the basics of creating a hierarchy within your schematics, which involves the basics of just creating symbols and defining pins within your schematics. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to use the same basic schematic as used in the last video. And let's say, for the sake of the tutorial, that we want to create the symbol for a very basic amplifier. Okay, so for a very basic amplifier, we obviously don't want any ideal voltage sources or ideal grounds in our circuit. We just want the active devices. So we'll go ahead and delete these nets here. And we'll create a very primitive common source amplifier. So one thing that we're going to want here is the I pin from the XChem device library. We'll bring this in and define the gate as our input, because we obviously want to input the signal into the gate. And to do this, we'll call it a lab of input and the name of input. Okay. We're going to do the same thing now with the ground, using Shift R there to rotate while moving, and we'll call this ground. Finally, okay, next we'll define our power supply. And then we're going to include a resistor from the PDK on the output net. So we're going to go back here to the PDK devices and find just a generic resistor. We'll go for a poly resistor with a 0.35 micrometer width, and we'll move it down here. So this is our output net. Let's go ahead and define that. Okay. And just for this basic tutorial, I'm going to be grounding the base of the resistor. Okay. So now we have a very basic schematic with our very basic amplifier and all of our ins and outs defined. Cool. Now we're going to go ahead and save it, and we're going to create a new symbol. You can see here that we have a new untitled symbol, and we're going to do a save as, and we're going to save it in the same directory with the same name as the schematic, tutorial.schematic, but now we're going to change it from a schematic to a .sym or .symbol. Now you can see that we have tutorial.symbol instead of tutorial.schematic. Okay, cool. Now we can use the L key to define the lines of our symbol, and make sure that you have layer 4 selected. So we'll just create a very basic amplifier symbol. We'll have our input, output, and our two supplies right there. Now you're going to go ahead and select the pin layer, layer 5, and you're going to go ahead and hit G twice to get the snap from 10 to 2.5. And now we're going to use the R key to define little squares at the endpoints of the symbol to denote the pins, just like so. And to get back to the normal snap, we can hit Shift G twice. There we go. Okay, great. Okay, next, now that we have the pins defined and we're on the right layer, we're going to go ahead here and right-click select and then right-click on each of the pins and edit their attributes. Now, we want to define their name and direction. So for the name, we want to align with the name of the pin defined in the schematic. So for this top one, I'll do VDD because we have a pin named VDD whose direction was in, just like so. And it's important that the direction and the name of the pin defined in the schematic match. And now you can go around for the rest and do the same. For this one, we have ground. Input. And for this one, this is our output. Okay, so once you have nothing selected, which you can do by hitting escape a few times, you're going to want to hit Q to open the attributes of the symbol file and type in the following. The first is to define the symbol as a subcircuit. Next, you're going to want to include the TDAX format. And finally, you're going to want to include the template. And here, this defines all of the normal attributes of the symbol when it's first instantiated. By including a number at the end of the name attribute, XSCAM will recognize this and automatically increment that number whenever multiple instantiations of the device are created. Once you have all of this added, you can save the symbol file and open a new schematic. Then, use the Shift-I bind to insert a new symbol, navigate to where you stored the symbol file, and you can now include it in your design, as shown right here. Then, to simply view the schematic of the subcircuit, go ahead and select the device and press E. Now, we can view the schematic of the subcircuit, and to pop back out of the subcircuit, we can do Command E, and we're back. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you guys the basics of going from a schematic to a layout in K-Layout using the SKY130 devices.